we have Dr. Papia Mitra ji. The whole session, it's a very long session. It's going to be before tea break and after tea break. In the before tea break part, we have Papia Mitra ji, Arvind Iyer ji, Shanmugam ji and Ganeshan ji. And Papia Mitra ji is going to talk about the female absolute, cosmos as manifestation of Shakti. The whole session is about Devi and Shakti concepts.
Hello. Okay, first I want to thank Indica team for allowing me to present a paper that is very dear to my heart. Okay, as this is about the cosmos as embodiment of the female principle itself. Okay, I am basing my paper on two very well-known prayers to the Devi. One is Ya Devi Sarvabhuteshu and another is Janta Mangala Kali. Okay, now let us look at the prayer. Ya Devi Sarvabhuteshu. What does that mean? Goddess or Devi who is everywhere. And every line of it is followed by the refrain. Namastaschai, Namastaschai, Namo Nama. That is, we worship her, we worship her, we worship her, hail her name. And then that is followed by a list of her various characteristics. She is Buddhi Rupeno Sangasthita. That is, she is present as intellect. She is Shanti Rupena Sangasthita, present as peace. She is also Bhranti Rupena Sangasthita, present as error. She is present as in your senses, as ruler of the senses. She is Smriti Rupena Sangasthita, Smriti in the sense of both memory and the sacred law texts. She is Matra Rupena Sangasthita as mother. She is Shraddha Rupena Sangasthita, but she is also Chaya Rupena Sangasthita, that is established as a shadow. Okay, but what the invocation tells us is that Devi is present everywhere and the entire cosmos is the embodiment of the female principle. Now you will notice that the qualities include those that are thought to be conventionally negative: hunger, thirst, shadow, sleep, error. Now what I say is that this is distinct from Abrahamic religions, where there is a firm line between the creator and the created objects. God created this world, but he is not a part of this world because he is purely spiritual. So we have, verily thou art a God who hidest thyself. But in Hinduism, there is nowhere that she is not. The universe is the goddess herself. But the Devi is not only the material world, she is also pure bliss and consciousness. So she is both the phenomenal world and the underlying substratum. In Abrahamic religions, the material world is made inferior due to the absence of God. It is inferior by default. But here, the natural world is not inferior because Devi is also Prakriti. As such, what we today call environmentalism is embedded in proper worship of Devi. Now, she is literally the mother of the universe in human terms, but she is also independent and autonomous and not simply the daughter or wife of a god. In her lila, she has assumed such roles, but she is not only the appendage of a male relative. Okay, as the creator of the universe, she had also created the male gods, or what we know as the male gods. And this vision stems right from the beginning of our civilization in the Rig Veda. There we have Aditi and Bak, who are the supreme creators and the lawgivers. And this view is not something that is limited to pundits or to a certain span of time or geography. Just travel thousands of years forward to Bengal. In popular vernacular literature, in Annoda Mongol, for example, a popular kavya, and there the opening song describes the Devi as Srishti, Sthiti, Pralay. Now in such a theology, the male gods are subordinate to her. That is why in Devi Bhagavatam, Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva worship her as the ultimate principle and acknowledge that they themselves are only the temporary manifestation of her gunas. Moreover, when the gods present themselves to the Devi, they are transformed to women. And they beg to remain as women so that they can always be in her presence. Okay, when they leave her, they take up the male form again. Thus you see the male body itself becomes inferior to the female body. This is a logical progression, I think, from the understanding that when Devi chooses to incarnate herself as a goddess or as a human woman, her embodied form is that of a female with all the biological processes that it implies. Now, such a theology makes it obvious that Hinduism cannot be inherently misogynistic or opposed to women. If it is presumed that women were inferior by their very nature, then the idea of an omnipotent Devi, who is the creator, would never have germinated. Now, in Abrahamic religions, God is ideally genderless, but he is always God the Father. There cannot be any concept of God the Mother, because a woman is always of secondary importance. And even in the pre-Abrahamic religions where you have goddesses, they have been subordinate to male gods, because the overall impression in the Western world is that a woman is an inferior kind of man only, incomplete form, while the man has the most perfect form. Now, when we look at India, at this Shakti tradition, it is the men who are copying down the Devi Bhagavatam, who are worshipping the Devi and transmitting it. And they are agreeing that the male biological body is a hindrance to knowing the to know the absolute truth. The man has accepted the story so that any talk of what they call toxic masculinity, it does not fit in with Hindu context as a whole. Indeed, it is believed that the Devi menstruates because she is female, and this is one attribute that is shared by human women, but not by men. We realize that any hatred or contempt of the female biological processes are conspicuous by their absence. And even when the male gods are worshipped as the ultimate, we realize that it is Shakti, or the energy that animates them, and this Shakti is the goddess. Okay, and therefore, though in society, men might look down on women as commodities and even as servants, it is not the universal truth that defines Sanatana Dharma. On the contrary, it is acceptance of power of women that is the bedrock of Hinduism, and that is what has empowered Hindu women to become scholars, religious leaders, warriors, etc. Now, the second prayer is Om Janta Mangala Kali. It tells us about the paradoxical nature of the Devi. She is gentle and fierce, creative and destructive. She is Jayanta, victorious, Mangala, auspicious, Kali, destroyer, Bhadrakali, gentle, Kapalini, skull garlanded, Durga, difficult to attain, Khama, forgiveness, Shiva, bliss, Dhatri, upholder of worlds, Shaha, sustainer of gods, Shadha, nurturer of ancestors. And we are also then told in the rest of the prayer about the demonic creatures he had destroyed, and that she is the protector of humankind and the grantor of moksha. And all through the prayer runs the refrain, Rupam Dehi, Jayam Dehi, Jasho Dehi, Disha Jahi. Bestow on me beauty, victory, fame, and destroy my enemies. Now, many scholars argue that these terms are not to be thought of as literally, because there is a deep symbolic meaning and have spiritual dimension. But I feel that there is no reason why we should ignore the literal meaning. As stated before, Devi is of this world also. So all our instincts are actually a manifestation of her. And that is why Devi is worshipped as Dash Mohabidyas. Okay, last evening we had excellent presentation on that. So I'm going to skip all that and just pick on the most important one. So a point I want to make. The first is, you have it there. It is Kali. Joy Kali Kolkata Wali. Who stands on her husband's body.
But Jai Kali
Kolkata Wali. That's a very common refrain. Okay, so what do we have here? Shiva is a corpse, a dead body without her. She is the Shakti that stands upon it. And it is also an excellent counter to any arguments about racism.
I have grown up with Ma Kali like this, but when we were young, and we used to go to the pandal and see this, what were we told by others, that this is Ma Kali. She was in a state of great anger and complete disregard of everything and complete chaos in her mind. Nobody could stop her, so Shivji came in front of her and he lay down. She put her foot on him. Now she was so sorry and ashamed that she has put her foot on Shivji that she takes her tongue out and says, "Oh, I'm sorry," like that. And then she realizes what she's doing and that she's in this dance of destruction, and then she stops. So you see, sometimes the logic way of telling children things is not always in keeping with whatever basic or ideas we may have or what ideas may want to be conveyed, but the logic method becomes very different, because then as a young girl, what was the message that was given to me? She stepped on her husband's body and that was an unforgivable sin. That's very different from the message, the deeper message. Yeah, I just wanted to say this because there are so many ways of understanding things.
Yes. No, but I'm saying that this is also a very good way to counter charges about racism, because that actually happened. One young man, Indian, but Western education has influenced him. So she argued that the image of Durga killing Mahishasura, that is very racist. He said there is a fair-skinned woman killing a black man. How can you not call that racist? So I had to say, well, what about Kali and Shiva? Here is a black woman stamping on the chest of a white man. How racist is that? Okay, and then there is Thumaboti. Next slide, please. We have... he had also explained it very well, so I will just point it out that she is the supreme widow, and also in mythology she has consumed her own husband. So how much more autonomy do you want for a widow to have? Okay, and finally...
And set him up with smoke.
And finally, there is Chinnamasta. Now, he has also explained it very well, but I have another explanation to offer also. I think that he stands for the endless cycle of the universe itself. Her severed head is drinking blood. She is not only feeding her attendants, she is also drinking her own blood. And the couple beneath her feet, they are Kama and Rati. Desire and satisfaction, which generates life. So I think that the couple, and many scholars also have read it elsewhere also, that couples beneath provides energy that is moving upward and it flows out through her wound over the whole world, feeding everything, and then it once again returns to her. Because think of how the universe operates. It is an endless cycle of energy. They are flowing, building the material world, dissolving, and then rebuilding and redissolving. In this way, there is no aspect of the universe left out, even if we human beings feel uncomfortable about them. Okay, and there is, Mahadevi is of course also the destroyer of evil and granter of victories. And that is one of the reasons she is described as drinking blood and she is worshipped with blood. But she not only creates, but she also destroys. Okay, but I think there is also another reason why Devi is portrayed often as a drinker of blood. I suggest that our ancestors looked at the material, natural universe and accepted the reality of the food chain, that life survives by feeding on other life. It is only natural, therefore, that the goddess's creation should be her food, because remember, her food is also herself, since she is the cosmos. Okay, the point is that Mahadevi in her ultimate form is not only spirituality, salvation, peace, but she is also chaos, lust, hunger, death. There is no need to feel that one must explain away those images because they do not seem to be modern, or excuse them to the Westerners who think that they are debased and repulsive. The images are very true to the universe and life it is than in other dominant religions today. The goddess and her creation are one, and that is what the worship of Mahadevi is all about. So a Hindu woman must understand this, and he must also analyze the feminine component in other religions, and he will find that the other religions are relentlessly patriarchal, while these are not. And okay, just one more point. and that I think a distinction needs to be made between what West regards as masculine and feminine and what Devi represents. This is where Western scholars and the Indians influenced by them get it wrong when they divide Hindu goddesses into categories of consort goddesses and independent goddesses. That means their culture is void of any female-centered vision of the cosmos, and only available model is that of the dominant husband and submissive wife. They automatically think that the goddess is either an obedient consort or outside normative boundaries. They lack the cultural learning that Devi, who is Annapurna, is also Kali, treading on her husband's body. The two are not mutually exclusionary. And another possible reason is that they are trying to apply the same lens through which they are accustomed to studying the ancient goddesses whose worship were destroyed before Abrahamic monotheisms. Now those female deities can be studied and classified with a clinical gaze because they are dead. But ours is a living experience. And even as we are studying it, the worship is flourishing. So the various goddesses might be worshipped in various ways. They might have consorts or not. But they are all aspects of the same Adda Shakti or primal power that creates, sustains and destroys the universe with the male gods themselves in it. Okay, such a female voice uttering that she is the Lord of all, that requires a different kind of gender analysis than we find available in academic circles. And if we look at it this way, cosmos as female, we realize that it makes the women empowered. That we are all daughters, sisters, mothers, wives due to biological and social constructions, but these are not limiting roles. If we remember that we are also personifications of Shakti. This does not diminish in any way the sufferings or the oppressions of women that they suffer at the hands of men. But women are empowered through the vision of Devi, that is Etat Bhakta Sthiti Jagat, pervades and sustains. Thank you.